Warren Buffett said someone is sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago. But he also said the stock market is a device for transferring money from the impatient to the patient. Most people will live and die in financial anxiety. They'll trade their time for a wage and call it security, never building anything that outlasts them. This video is about how to get out of that cycle. It's not about getting rich quick. It's about building a fortress of wealth so strong your last name becomes a legacy. And it starts not with money, but with a mental shift I call the Buffett way. There is a kind of wealth that outlives you, not the kind that buys yachts or flashes its power in gold watches, but the kind that echoes your name through time. The kind that whispers your legacy into the ears of your great-grandchildren, that feeds not just stomachs, but dreams, that builds schools, foundations, and futures. This is generational wealth. And it begins not with $1, but with a decision. Because the truth? Most people never build it, not because they weren't smart, not because they weren't capable, but because they never truly believed they could. They traded vision for comfort, legacy for convenience, discipline for distraction. But you're not most people. You're here because something in you refuses to settle for survival. Something ancient and unbreakable inside you knows you were born to build, not just for today, not just for you, but for those you'll never meet, whose lives will be elevated by the empire you forge in silence, in sacrifice, and in unstoppable conviction. Warren Buffett once said, "Someone's sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago. This is your season to plant. So plant deeply, think long, move with vision, because what you build now will echo forever." Mindset, rewiring thought for wealth. Every empire that stood the test of time began as a thought, not a possession. Before Warren Buffett made his first investment, he made a mental shift. He stopped thinking like a consumer and started thinking like a builder. He didn't see money as something to spend. He saw it as a tool, a seed, a soldier. He gave every dollar a job, and he never sent them into battle without a mission. That's the mindset of wealth. If you treat money like a fleeting thrill, it will vanish like smoke. But if you treat it like a foundation, something to grow, protect, and multiply, it will work harder than any labor you could ever hire. Buffett read hundreds of pages a day. Why? Because wealth begins in the mind. Compound interest doesn't just apply to money. It applies to knowledge, to habits, to how you think. You must rewire your beliefs about what's possible, because you cannot build what your mind does not believe is real. You were taught that money is scarce, that rich people are greedy, that wealth is luck, that playing it safe is smart. But understand, those are not facts. They are inherited limitations. They are the scars of those who came before you, spoken into you by people who gave up their own dreams long ago. The truth? Wealth is abundant. Money flows to those who solve problems, who think long-term, who lead with clarity and courage. And if you train your mind to see differently, act differently, decide differently, wealth begins chasing you, not because you're chasing it, but because you're becoming someone it cannot ignore. Belief, the foundation of legacy. If you don't believe it's possible for you, it never will be. Generational wealth is not built by the smartest. It is built by the most convicted. Buffett didn't build Berkshire Hathaway on brilliance alone. He built it on unwavering faith. Faith in his process, faith in his discipline, faith in his long-term vision when everyone else was chasing noise. Do you believe in what you're building? Because belief is more than emotion. It is the engine of all discipline. You don't stay consistent with what you don't believe in. You don't suffer for a future you can't see. You don't sacrifice today for a tomorrow you think will betray you. Your belief must be so strong it overrules fear, so rooted it survives ridicule, so fierce it becomes your compass in storms. Florence Scovel Shinn once wrote, "Your word is your wand. What you say, you summon. What you believe, you birth. So stop speaking the language of defeat. Erase the vocabulary of lack. Speak like a builder. Decide like a builder. Move like a builder, because the world won't believe in your wealth until you do. Clarity. Define what you're building. You cannot hit a target you cannot see. Most people never build wealth because they never define it. They chase income, not assets. They chase status, not substance. They chase moments, not movements. But Buffett knew exactly what he was building. Not just a portfolio, a fortress. One so resilient it could weather any crash, any recession, any storm. You need that kind of clarity. What are you building, really? Is it just more money in the bank? Or is it freedom? Ownership? Legacy? A family that never has to start from zero again? Write it down. Make it vivid. Make it emotional. Make it yours. Because clarity sharpens your decisions. It silences noise. It tells you what to say no to. Without clarity, you become addicted to hustle and allergic to direction. You work hard, but for what? Clarity is the blueprint. It's the map that turns effort into empire. Henry Ford didn't randomly invent the assembly line. He saw a future, one where every man could afford a car, and that clarity made him relentless, efficient, focused. You must be the same. Stop drifting. Decide. And once you do, move like nothing else matters. Vision. See the future before it exists. The most dangerous person in any room is the one who can see what no one else can. Buffett invested in companies the world laughed at. He bet on Coca-Cola when analysts called it childish. He held on through recessions when panic ruled the markets. Why? Vision. He saw not just what was, but what could be. And that is your superpower. Vision is wealth before it's material. It is the art of imagining, with such clarity, a future so powerful that it begins to pull you forward. Do you see it? Can you see the businesses you'll build? The homes you'll pass down? The lessons your children will teach their children because of what you did now? Because if you can't see it, you won't build it. Vision isn't fantasy. It's responsibility. When you hold a vision, you are accountable to the future. You are a steward of tomorrow's abundance. And vision requires courage. The courage to defy what you see around you and commit to what you know is inside you. They'll call you crazy. They'll call you obsessed. Let them, because the world was changed by those who could see before it was visible and built before it was popular. You are not just a dreamer. You are a designer of destiny. So design boldly. Purpose, the fire behind the fortune. You don't build for money alone. You build for meaning. Because wealth without purpose is just numbers on a screen. But wealth tied to a mission? That's a force of nature. That's when dollars become drivers of destiny. Buffett didn't amass billions just to stack them. He gave more than $40 billion away because he understood true wealth is not just about how much you keep. It's about how deeply you impact. So what's your why? Why must you rise? Why must you master money instead of being mastered by it? If your reason is shallow, your drive will be weak. But when your purpose burns, when it's tied to something bigger than ego, deeper than status, you become unshakable. Do it for your bloodline. For the child who deserves to inherit options instead of debt. For the community that needs a model, not just a donation. For the legacy that outlasts your flesh and becomes immortal through the lives it changes. James Allen wrote, "You are today where your thoughts have brought you. You will be tomorrow where your thoughts take you." So, let them take you somewhere sacred. Purpose is your compass when profit becomes confusing. It's the reason you don't quit when it gets hard. It's the heartbeat behind every late night, every risk, every silent sacrifice. If you build just for cash, you will break when the winds rise. But if you build for purpose, you become indestructible. Discipline, the architecture of empire. But a blueprint is useless without a foundation. That foundation is discipline. It's the most boring, unsexy, and powerful force in the universe. Everyone knows the Buffett quote, "Be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful." But quoting it is easy. Doing it is agonizing. In 1963, American Express was nearly destroyed by something called the Salad Oil Scandal. A company they had loaned money to was faking its inventory, and when the fraud was exposed, Wall Street panicked. Amex stock crashed 50%. Everyone screamed, "Sell!" But Buffett did something different. He went to work. He personally went to restaurants and stores, watching people. Were they still using their Amex cards and traveler's checks? Yes. He talked to cashiers. He talked to bank tellers. He trusted his real world investigation over Wall Street's hysteria. He invested 40% of his entire fund into American Express and doubled his money in 2 years. That wasn't luck. It was brutal, boring, unemotional discipline. Warren Buffett didn't become wealthy because of one lucky investment. He became wealthy because of decades of boring, consistent, relentless discipline. While others chased hype, he chased habits. Discipline is the bridge between ideas and empires. Without it, dreams are just expensive hallucinations. But with it, you become a machine. Predictable, precise, dangerous. Most people want the results of wealth, but few are willing to embrace the repetition it demands. They want the fruits without planting the seeds. They want the harvest without facing the sweat. Buffett read every single day. He tracked every dollar. He waited years, even decades, for the right investments to mature. That is discipline. And that is what separates builders from wishers. So let the world be entertained. Let others burn out chasing dopamine. You build in silence. You become a technician of your future. You set rules for your money and never violate them. You master your calendar. You show up when no one claps. You act when motivation dies. Because empires are not built in excitement. They are built in consistency. So when it's hard, you stay in motion. When it's boring, you lean in. When it's lonely, you remember. Discipline is the tax you pay for greatness. Pay it gladly. Action, the currency of the builders. Ideas don't build wealth. Action does not. How many people talk about generational wealth, yet never take the first step? How many read books, watch videos, attend seminars, and still live paycheck to paycheck because they never executed? Let that never be you. Buffett once said, "The most important thing to do if you find yourself in a hole is to stop digging." That's action. That's decision. That's refusing to let your past sabotage your future. You can't afford to wait for the perfect moment. There is no perfect investment, no flawless plan, no risk-free path. But the wealthiest people on earth became that way because they moved early, imperfectly, consistently. Ford didn't wait for the public to demand cars. He built them. Rockefeller didn't wait for someone else to supply the world with oil. He became the supply. You must become the initiator, not the observer. The driver, not the passenger. Take the course. Start the business. Invest the money. Learn the skill. Build the system. Have the hard conversation. Cut the dead weight. Wealth rewards the doers, the movers, the ones who aren't afraid to fail forward. Action is the antidote to fear. It is the clarifier of vision. It is how invisible dreams become visible legacy. So move now, relentlessly. Leadership, becoming the steward of wealth. Wealth isn't just about what you accumulate. It's about who you become in the process. Because at some point, you're not just building for yourself. You become responsible for others. You become a leader in your family, your circle, your company, your community. And leadership is not domination. It is stewardship. It is service. It is influence grounded in values, not vanity. Buffett built companies that lasted decades because he led with integrity. He didn't micromanage. He chose people he trusted and let them run. He focused not on control, but on vision. Can you do the same? Can you lead with principle? Can you train others to think long term? Can you multiply not just money, but wisdom? Because the greatest gift of generational wealth is not inheritance. It's empowerment. Money without guidance is a curse. Wealth without character is a ticking bomb. But when you lead from the front with vision, values, and wisdom, you don't just pass down assets. You pass down armor. Leadership is about becoming the person your descendants can model. Not just remember. So speak clearly. Live intentionally. Build transparently. And become the leader your bloodline was waiting for. Investment. Multiplying what you've mastered. You cannot save your way to wealth. At some point, you must step beyond survival and into strategy. You must make your money move. Make it breathe. Make it grow in your sleep while you build in your waking hours. Buffett didn't build Berkshire Hathaway on a salary. He built it on ownership, equity, accumulation of value over time. He didn't chase fast returns. He chased compounding. And that's the key. Wealth is not built through speed. It is built through velocity. Quiet, consistent multiplication of small seeds, nurtured through time, patience, and discipline. You must stop thinking like a spender and start thinking like an investor. Every dollar you hold is a worker. Every decision you make sends that worker somewhere. Are you sending them into clubs and gadgets and trends? Or are you sending them into vehicles that appreciate businesses, stocks, real estate, education? Investment is not gambling. It's stewardship. You must learn to delay the ego of the now for the empire of the later. Warren Buffett said, "The stock market is a device for transferring money from the impatient to patient. The impatient want flashy results. Patient want enduring control. And this applies beyond money. Invest in your mind, in your network, in your health, in your brand, in your skills, in your character. Because everything you plant, you will one day harvest. And the quality of that harvest will not depend on luck. It will depend on what and how you chose to invest. So learn the rules. Study the masters. Think in decades. Move with foresight. Because your wealth is not just what you earn, it's what you multiply. Resilience. Wealth that withstands the storms. You will be tested. If you're building generational wealth, you will not be spared from storms. There will be recessions, crashes, criticism, betrayals. You will make mistakes, lose money, miss shots. But understand this. Every empire that endured had a builder who refused to fold. Resilience is your hidden currency. Rockefeller built Standard Oil during one of the most volatile periods in American history. Wars, panics, depressions, and still he rose. Why? Because he didn't panic. He adapted. He endured. Buffett lost billions on paper more than once and never flinched. He held steady while the world screamed, because the true builders know pain is temporary. Discipline is eternal. You must become the kind of person who holds the line when the wind screams, who does not confuse a season of loss with a lifetime of failure. Resilience isn't toughness. It's clarity under chaos. It's knowing what you're building is too sacred to abandon over short-term discomfort. You don't quit because the market dipped. You don't fold because your business had a bad quarter. You don't give up because they laughed, mocked, or walked away. You stay. You adjust your sails, tighten your grip, and continue, because you're not just building for now. You're building for forever. Let storms come. Your legacy was made for them. Learning, The Infinite Edge. Warren Buffett spends 80% of his day reading, absorbing, thinking. Why? Because knowledge compounds faster than money ever will. The wealthiest people on earth are not the ones who knew it all. They are the ones who never stopped learning, never stopped refining, never stopped evolving. You must become a permanent student of the game. Read the biographies, study the failures, watch the trends, learn from the greats and the fallen, because every level of wealth demands a new level of insight. And the moment you stop learning, you start losing. Ford studied industrial systems before creating the assembly line. Rockefeller memorized every cost, every pipeline, every detail of the oil industry. Buffett dissects company balance sheets like a surgeon with a scalpel. That is not talent. That is obsession. That is reverence for mastery. You must develop that same hunger, not just for information, but for transformation. Knowledge is not power. Applied knowledge is. Don't just hoard ideas. Execute them. Experiment. Learn through movement. Every book you devour is a brick in your legacy. Every mentor you learn from is a shortcut around years of pain. Every failure you dissect is an investment in a better decision next time. Stay a student. Stay sharp. Stay dangerous. Because those who learn forever earn forever. Gratitude, anchoring the soul of wealth. In the pursuit of legacy, don't forget to feel, because it's easy to become mechanical, obsessed with numbers, focused on scale, addicted to progress. But true wealth, lasting wealth, requires a rooted heart. Gratitude is what keeps your soul alive while you build. Buffett, even in his billions, lives in the same house he bought in 1958. Why? Because he never let success rob him of appreciation. You must do the same. Be grateful for the journey, for the nights you almost quit but didn't, for the losses that taught you more than the wins ever could. Be grateful for your ancestors. Even if they left you nothing, they gave you a name, a chance, a glimpse of what not to be. And now you get to be the one who changes the tide. Gratitude keeps you generous when wealth tempts you to hoard. It keeps you grounded when ego tries to inflate. It reminds you that even when you build alone, you're never truly alone. You walk with history. You carry future generations in your shadow. And in every step forward, they're cheering silently for you. So breathe, reflect, be present, because wealth is not just built in the spreadsheets. It's built in the spirit. Adaptability, the secret to staying relevant. The game changes. The rules evolve. Markets shift. Technologies disrupt. What worked yesterday can bankrupt you tomorrow. And if you're not willing to adapt, you will die wealthy in theory, but broke in reality. Buffett never clung to old paradigms. Yes, he was known for value investing, but he didn't let dogma blind him. He studied, evolved, and embraced tech when it finally aligned with his principles. That's how he ended up investing billions into Apple, not because it was trendy, but because it became wise. Adaptability is not weakness. It's intelligence in motion. Rockefeller adjusted to changing regulations. Ford adapted production during wartime. Carnegie shifted from iron to steel to global philanthropy. You must be just as fluid. If the economy crashes, adapt. If your business model breaks, innovate. If your old skill becomes obsolete, learn a new one. Never confuse consistency with rigidity. Discipline keeps you focused. Adaptability keeps you alive. The river that bends does not break. The builder who evolves never falls behind. Stop fearing change. Become change. Move faster than the storm. Pivot quicker than the crash. Reimagine yourself so many times they can't categorize you. Because in a world that rewrites the rules every decade, the only way to secure generational wealth is to become uncatchable. Culmination, the legacy you leave behind. One day, your name will be spoken in rooms you'll never enter. One day, your children, or your children's children, will look at a deed, a trust, a company, a community center, and see your fingerprints in everything. And the question is not, if you'll leave a legacy. The question is, what kind of legacy will it be? Will it be one of regret and excuses? Or one of sacrifice and sovereignty? Will they inherit chaos or a compass? Will they receive money or the mindset that made it? Because generational wealth is not just what's in the will, it's what's in the wisdom you passed down. It's the way you taught them to think, to lead, to live. Buffett didn't just leave billions. He left blueprints, letters, interviews, principles, examples. He gave his heirs more than capital. He gave them character. You must do the same. Document what you learn. Teach what you know. Share your scars. Pass on the codes. And most of all, live in such a way that your descendants inherit more than money. Let them inherit power, direction, clarity, faith, fire. Your life be a bridge that carries them across the chasm of mediocrity and into the land of mastery. Let your wealth not just sustain them, but awaken them. You are not just a builder. You are an ancestor in training, a guardian of a future you may never see, but you can shape. And that is the most sacred work of all. Final surge. The Buffett way is your way now. You don't need to be born into money. You don't need luck. You don't need perfect timing. You need clarity of vision, unshakable belief, ruthless discipline, and unstoppable action. You need to think like an investor, move like a strategist, endure like a warrior, lead like a servant, evolve like a survivor. You need to adopt the iron mindset of those who came before and build with the fire of those who will come after. This is not a game. This is not about cars, watches, or social media clout. This is about power, control, freedom, stewardship, generational destiny. This is about knowing that the choices you make today ripple through decades. It's about understanding that every step forward is an act of rebellion against mediocrity and a declaration of sovereignty. So build your systems, set your principles, stack your knowledge, shield your legacy. No more excuses, no more waiting. The Buffett way is not reserved for the elite. It is a pattern, a philosophy, a mindset. And now it is yours. The blueprints are in your hands. The clock is ticking and the bloodline is watching. Now build. Build with fire. Build with purpose. Build with soul. And do not stop until your last name becomes a monument.